Good, happy Sunday morning, everyone. I'm Riley King, and welcome to the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. Let's begin. First step, friends, neighbors, pay respect to Barbara Bush. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9, Siobhan Lopez.
We know they have weapons of mass destruction. We know they have active programs. There isn't any debate about it.
I don't know what more evidence we need. No discussion.
H.W. Bush's former chief of staff, John H. Sununu, was in Houston for Barbara Bush's funeral. He said the speeches by family and friends perfectly embodied the send-off that the former First Lady wanted.
A celebration of her life, along with tears and laughter. He says she leaves behind an example for all of us as Americans.
She's left a great example of class, of civility, of commitment to education and literacy, and a love of country.
And as the former First Lady was laid to rest in Texas, friends and neighbors of the Bush family in Kennebunkport, Maine gathered to honor her life.
Many coming together to watch the funeral services on TV. WMUR's Siobhan Lopez joins us live now near the Bush family home with more tonight. Siobhan?
Well, during the funeral, the Reverend brought up a story where he was up here walking on the beach with Mrs. Bush. Someone came up to them and said, "Hey, you look like Barbara Bush." To which she replied, "Yeah, I get that a lot." It's that sense of humor people here in Maine say they'll miss the most. A memorial continues to grow in Kennebunkport, Maine, as neighbors and friends of the Bush family honor the life of Barbara Bush.
Just down to earth, and she didn't think she was special because she was, the First Lady or anything. She was so well loved and so strong a woman, and yet gentle.
Downtown at HB Provisions, the former First Lady's funeral services were on TV.
We needed that to happen for us, for our community, for the people that are, it's a beautiful sunny day, just like Barbara Bush would have loved it.
Owners Bonnie and Helen grew close to the Bush family, welcoming them as guests at their own wedding. They say we all have a little something to learn from Barbara's life.
The letter writing and, the kindness and the humor, and everybody talked about humor.
It was her sense of humor those who knew her will remember and cherish most. Outside the store, a sign with just a single strand of pearls. Their simple tribute to a woman who wanted a simple service.
One more check to honor Barbara.
There probably wasn't one heart in that building, and everybody that watched it that didn't feel love for her. That I feel like she just gave so much love to the world, and now the world is trying to give it back to her.
Now, many people we spoke to say we can all learn something from the marriage between Barbara and George. Their hearts now turn to the former president as he grieves this great loss. We're live in Kennebunkport, Maine. Siobhan Lopez, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Woman found dead in basement of North Andover home. Let's take a listen to the video from WCVB Boston.
Museum of Science.
District Attorney's Office confirms the 49-year-old was found dead at a home on Lincoln Street. News 75's Diane Cho is live with the breaking details. Diane.
We can see that there is an officer standing outside the home right now as a homicide investigation is underway at this home at this hour. Police are still waiting on a search warrant to go inside. The district attorney's office confirms a 911 call came in from a neighbor upstairs around 12:30 here on Lincoln Street, saying that she found her neighbor downstairs in the basement of the home. We're told the victim is a 49-year-old woman. It's not clear how she died. Neighbors we spoke with tell us this is typically a very quiet area. And the DA's office says that no one is in custody at this time. Of course, we will continue to stay on top of this developing story for you and bring you the latest as soon as we get it.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. We will keep you updated as we get more information into our newsroom. Maine nation celebrate life of former First Lady Barbara Bush. More than 1,000 people gathered in Houston to celebrate the life of former First Lady Barbara Bush on Saturday. Mrs. Bush died on Tuesday at the age of 92. Historian Joe said Barbara Bush is the First Lady of the greatest generation. Joe spoke to hundreds of people attending the funeral for the former First Lady in Houston. He said his ecology that the wife of the 41st president and the mother of the 43rd was candid and comforting, steadfast and straightforward, honest and loving. Joe recalled her quick wit that made her so popular. He also spoke of her devotion to her husband of 73 years, saying former President George H.W. Bush was the only boy she ever kissed. Joe wrote in a 2015 biography of George H.W. Bush. At Miss Bush's request, her son Jeb Bush delivered a eulogy at her funeral. He said his mother was beautiful until the day she died. Mrs. Bush's close friend, Susan Barker, also delivered ecology as well. Mrs. Bush's granddaughter provided readings during the service, and her grandson served as a pallbearer. Former President Bill Clinton and his wife Hillary, and former President Barack Obama and his wife Michelle were in attendance. President Donald Trump did not attend the funeral, but First Lady Melania was in attendance. People from Maine in attendance, including Senator Susan Collins, former Maine Governor John McCann, and his wife, former Susan Olympia Snow. The Reverend Dr. Peter of St. Anne's Episcopal Church in Kennebunk was one of the celebrants. The Bushes attended St. Anne's during their time in Maine. After the funeral, Mrs. Bush was laid to rest at the George Bush Presidential Library in College Station, Texas. Born Barbara Pierce in 1925 in New York City. She grew up in nearby Rye, New York, the daughter of a well-to-do magazine editor. She met George H. W. Bush at a Christmas dance in 1941. They would marry in 1945. After her husband's military service and graduation from Yale, the Bushes moved to Texas, where Barbara Bush focused on raising their growing family. The couple had 6 children, including a daughter, Robin, who died at the age of 4 of leukemia. When her husband's political career began to take off in the 1960s, she is the strictest supporter. During her husband's term as vice president under Ronald Reagan, Barbara Bush began to promote literacy. As First Lady from 1989 to 1993, she furthered the cause by creating the Barbara Bush Foundation for Family Literacy. It became the cause she supported for the rest of her life. After leaving the White House, Mrs. Bush would continue her philosophy work. In 1995, Maine Medical Center named its Children's Hospital after her. In the following years, Mrs. Bush would author 2 children's books and write a memoir of her life after the White House. A life that included more politics when her son George W. Bush was elected president. Barbara Bush became the second woman in U.S. history to be the wife and mother of a president. Another son, Jeb Bush, served as governor in Florida. In her later years, Mrs. Bush continued to spend summers at the family home at Walker's Point in Kennebunkport, though it all her family was her most cherished achievement. President Trump, Macron solidify political bromance with state visit. Their relationship began with a show of Moscow, an extended white Knox handshake on their first meeting last year in Belgium. Euromako had reportedly studied Donald Trump's style of domineering power jab handshakes, apparently prepared to avoid being outdone by his counterpartner. Instead, it was President Trump who, at one point in a 5-second long handshake, attempted to withdraw his hand from Macron's firm grips. And that does it for the Riley King newscast right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a great rest of your Sunday, and I'll see you back here later on today for another newscast. And I'll have a news report later on today and a little bit as well. Goodbye, everyone.